Incremental greetings. Today I want to share with you about the difference of undismissing and memorizing items. So this is especially useful when you have any item, any element, and you dismiss it. And in the future, let's say that this is no longer useful and I just dismiss them. So click and dismiss or Ctrl D. Now this will be ignored from Supermemo. And if I want this item to go to the learning queue again, one of the things I can do is to memorize it, right? So one of the things I can do now is I open this on the browser, is process the browser, learn, and remember. But I also have the undismissed. Let's first do the remember. You have to select one interval, being the default, a fixed, just one day, so that will be outstanding tomorrow or given a chosen range. This is useful if you have more cards, more items. Let's use the default for now. So in this case, I have an interval of 45. This is huge. That is because my default, it's calculated from my optimum interval. So if I open the stats, I have 33 days. That's actually the maximum you can get. And that doesn't mean it's the maximum first interval. That depends on the priority. The lower the priority, the higher the interval will be. In this case, it's 45. Okay, gotcha. But what about the history of this item? So we dismiss it, 5th repetition. Look at the date. September 27th is when I'm recording this video. That is today. What happens is that I had a priority of 2.8%, and now it's extremely low. It's in fact the lowest priority possible. It's the last item in the priority queue. So what I lost is the priority I had. Yes, if it's just one item, I can go Alt-P and set it again at 2.8, more or less. Now I have almost, it's not the same, but almost the same. Second, I lost the interval. I had 218 days. Now I have just 45. So, overall, the point is that dismissing and setting memorize, it's not the same as in Anki as you would say toggle suspend. In the sense that the card, the item, it's not frozen in time, and when you unfreeze the card, it's as if nothing happened. You will have the same interval as before, the same outstanding date, due date in Anki. That's not actually true in Supermemo. You lose all of that. And on top of this, you will see a reset when we set the automatic repetition. This automatic repetition is done with set memorized, we just did. So we also lost auto repetitions. If you see here, it only says one rep, the automatic for now. This will be useful in case there are lapses. The lapses are also not counted, are reset. For me, personally, I would like to keep the count for the lapses. So when this becomes a glitch, it will be transparent. That's not actually true. Let's say that here that's not the case, but another card that I could have a lapse already. Let's do another case that I have. Here I have one. So I have 5 repetitions with 1 lapse. So if I first dismiss it, and now I set it to memorize, let's pretend it's a different day, and I set to remember. Default again. In this case, it's 33. That's such a good case because that's exactly my optimal interval. Before I got 45, I think. So if I go to the history now, you see that I still have here in the history the lapse, but it's no longer taken into account. Look, 1 rep. The lapse is gone. And perhaps I could have 2 or 3. And if the threshold, let's say the threshold for being a glitch, it's 5. In this item will be the 6th lapse. It's because what's below reset, it's not taken into account. And what I have seen right off the bat now, that I previously reset this before, last year, August 22. This makes sense. That is because I generated those from XML, and I dismissed almost everything I wasn't actually using. And look, the reset was almost next year. So for just 2 weeks off, it was not one entire year. Wow, that's a long hiatus. But look, that I had a very high priority, And one extremely important detail here that we are missing is that priority is relative. So this is the priority I had last year, but at August 22nd, how many items did I have? It's not the same as being the 135th element in the collection, when I only have 2,000 items, 2,000 elements. And now that I have almost 130,000 elements. I can actually look for that, August 22nd. I had less than 1,000 elements. And it was the position 135. So it was about 10%, 10-12% more or less of priority. Now this position will be extremely high priority. Because now I have, let me reset. Because now I have 122,000 elements. I'm using an old backup. Now I have more than that. Okay, what is dismissing? And dismissing by setting memorize or remember. Gotcha. Then what about, let's say, this one? Okay, let's take a look. Okay, all good. I will dismiss it, same as before. Now let's pretend that some time passed, some days at least, and now instead of setting remember, I will undismiss it. Do you want to stop ignoring? Yes, I want to ignore. To stop ignoring. Hey, wait a second. It's pending. So the first difference is that it's not going to the priority queue with the lowest priority. It goes to the pending queue. Nice. That's a big difference. Now let's see what happened in the history. Okay, we have a reset. So we don't have the automatic repetition when we do the remember. That's actually the point of the pending queue. Now the question is, when I will see this card so I can make the first genuine repetition after the reset? Well, since it's the pending queue, that will be when I go to learn, stages, and new material. But look at that. I have 57,000 elements on my pending queue. So almost all the English collection, plus even more stuff that I imported. If I look at the pending, it will be no other than the last one. This is also what I did before when recording another video. This is the exact item I dismissed, the HTMLIs, the set plain text. So this date you see that it's today, September 27th, is the date I set this item to the pending queue. Either myself using the browser or importing from another collection or from a file. So in this case, this will be the very last card I will see in my collection, in my pending queue. So this will be a very poor choice if I want to see this card right now. It was dismissed, and I undismiss it because I want to learn it now. Such a poor choice. If it happens that you have no pending queue, you will only have this very same item. So you will see this card immediately because there's no other choice. There's only this item, right? But if you happen to have pending queue, not necessarily from the English collection, you will come across this issue. Yes, I think you can change the number and so on, but this is adding more steps for just one item. So what I will suggest in this case is to set remember. So overall, the point would be, if you have a pending queue, is to bypass it. And to bypass it will be to set remember instead of undismissing. But what we have seen is that both lose the priority they had. Here there's no priority because it's on the pending queue. Pending queue is outside of the priority queue, so there's no priority. And you also lose the interval. So to take home message is that you will lose the current interval, the outstanding date, and the repetition count. Displayed here, you will have 0 repetitions, and in other settings it will be counted as 0 repetitions. But in some other stats, those repetitions are taken into account. The overall count of reps, the optimal interval, and so on, this is counting towards that. So it's not a fully wipe out, and this is also different from Anki, because in Anki, if you suspend and unsuspend, you still get all the repetitions done. The same interval, the same quantity of repetitions, of lapses, all the same. Take this as a biased recommendation. Do not use the pending queue. There's no point on that for your own stuff. If it's for something you imported, okay, there's no other choice. By default, it will go to the pending queue. Second, if you want to dismiss, feel free, but do it as soon as possible. In the sense of the before the first repetition, or when you are doing the first repetition, and you're thinking, oh, this can wait a long time. I want to keep it here, but not on my learning process for now. And you dismiss it. And finally, keep in mind that you won't get the interval. You will start from scratch. You have different options, but most importantly, you will have to reset the priority. Nothing more to add.